Scott Mitchell, Scottmitchell.
Yeah, Scott, what do you teach here?
I teach middle school science, which for us includes 6th, 7th, and 8th grade.
Well, thinking about customized learning, what has the process been for you as you've journeyed into customized learning?
Well, it's been a long process. We used a lot of the last year or so to get some background and just find out what we were going to be doing exactly and to form a plan. And just to see what it looked like at other schools, because we obviously had not seen an example or didn't know what the product was going to look like. So I think that was probably the most helpful thing for us through the planning process, was to see examples and to see what other schools had done. And there's not a whole lot of schools to use as examples yet. But it was good to see that and to see kind of what our goal is at some point, or just to see a format, just to get a starting point probably more than anything else. So once we had that, then we kind of took off from there. And the thing that we found right away was that it's going to be different depending on size of school, school climate, and a number of other resources available. So we found right away that you have to tailor it to your specific situation. And there's not too many other schools going to MCL that are our size. So we were able to get some good examples from other schools bigger than us, but I think right away it was a challenge to figure out how that was going to look for us with our size of school. And I think we've been able to do that. And now we're just in the process of still planning, but fine-tuning some of those things, changing some of the things that we maybe started at the beginning of the year as we've went forward here. And it's just a process of constantly looking at what you're doing right now and trying to come up with new ideas and things that you could do better and things that you could do different as we go forward.
Was there any aspect of customized learning that was really different than what you thought when you initially started the process?
I was actually a fairly strong supporter of MCL, because I had used some of this stuff that they talk about with MCL before, things like flipping the classroom, independent learning, some independent learning, more one-on-one, trying to meet the needs of the individual student. So I had used some of that before already and was going to kind of go down that road anyway. So when this whole concept was brought in and we started talking about it a little bit more, it was something that I really liked. It really fit with my teaching style and how I wanted to operate my classroom. So it's been an easy transition for me. And to answer your question, there really hasn't been anything that has really struck me as out of the ordinary up to this point. I think it's a system that all works together. All the components fit well together when they're implemented in the right way. And so I think it's been an easy transition as far as my situation here with science.
Now, I assume you went through the process with a team of teachers here, or was it more individual?
We did. We started with our middle school, was kind of our first group to go through it. So that included like our 4 core teachers, the social studies, ELA, math, science, along with our electives also, physical education, etc. And so we really worked together as a group to figure out what this would look like at the middle school level. And at the same time, looking at knowing that it's not going to be the exact same between all of the 4 different subject areas. We're each going to have our own way of doing things and some differences there, but we work together to kind of form the backbone of what it would be and what it would look like at this level.
Are there ways that science is more difficult than maybe some other areas to implement customized learning?
I think probably one of the most challenging things with science is organizing the labs and the very large group activities and keeping that relevant to the students, because they are at different spots in their curriculum, different units or different lessons. So trying to find a way to keep that relevant over a period of time is probably the most challenging thing. But even at that point, it really isn't, because the kids that are behind, it's a preview of what they have coming up. For the kids that are just a little bit ahead, it's maybe a review or a way for them to look back if they may have missed something along the line. So you still meet the needs of those students depending on where they are. But other than that, MCL fits really well with what we do in science because everybody has their own interest. We may be studying one main topic, but there could be numerous different things in that or under that topic that the various kids could look at depending on their own situation and prior knowledge and things. So it actually works out well for them. It allows them the freedom to look at some of those things. The self-motivation is a little bit higher then, and it just allows them a little more freedom to look at those things that interest them compared to what we would have done before.
One of the things we're asking everybody, all teachers across the state, you hear the criticism sometimes that, well, teachers, because they're not standing up in front of the classroom lecturing, they're not teaching anymore.
Sure.
How would you answer that? How are you teaching now?
I would actually strongly disagree with that. I think I work harder now than I ever have at any point in my career, probably. It's just a different type, and I think that's where some people are confused that in order for a teacher to work, they have to be in front of the classroom talking at the students. And I think research shows now that that's not the most effective way for students to learn. And so I think we're working harder, but it's just a different type. It's more one-on-one, it's more organization, it's more prep. Because in all honesty, you have to plan out quite a bit in advance. Being able to fly by the seat of your pants, so to speak, is very, very difficult with the MCL system, I think, from what we've found. So I think it's a lot of work. I think there's a lot of good things that come from it. But I would say that it is definitely not easier on the teacher side of it. It's not less work compared to what we were doing before.
Do you feel like you know the students better?
The one-on-one opportunities that we have allow us to get to know the students a little bit better than maybe what we did before. Some of their interests, some of the things they have going on in their life outside of the school, because that's a huge factor in their performance in school many times. So the ability to meet with them one-on-one and to assess where they are and just find out what they have going on in life is definitely important. And the system allows us to do that a little bit more compared to what we would have done before, where it's mainly large group settings and you just didn't have an opportunity to talk to the kids one-on-one or in very small groups. So that's been a key component, I think, for us, and to be successful going forward. I think that's going to be something we really have to stay on top of. Is the one-on-one connection is going to be very important as we use this in other areas of the school, whether we migrate it to high school and elementary. I think that's a huge factor to making the system successful.
Now, we had a couple of students here who said they thought this was a better program for kind of high achievers than low achievers. Mm-hmm. What would you say to that?
I think it works for both ends of the spectrum, actually. Our high-level, higher achiever students are more challenged. They have more responsibility. They have opportunities to tailor their experiences to their interests. But at the same time, it works well with our students that are maybe a little less motivated or they're just a little bit behind also, because we can tailor the experience for them also. Whatever that may mean. That may take many different forms, but we're able to help them a little bit more one-on-one. We're able to confirm that they're getting to the mastery level, whatever that teacher determines that to be. So from the experiences that we've had this year, we've actually had fewer students, I think, on that end of it than what we would have had in years past. So that's been really nice to see on our end. And I think they're more motivated because they know what they have to do to stay caught up to teacher pace with whatever that is for the various class. So they're more motivated to get to that point. They know exactly what they have to do, and they know that one-on-one experience exists, and so they know they can come to the teacher and ask questions and do what they have to do to get caught back up again.
Mm-hmm. Last thing I wanted to ask you, and then we'll see if Lenny's got something. Do you feel like the community and parents especially understand what is happening and are they supportive?
I think our community understands the concept of it and what's going on. I think it's a long process of just finding out how it's going to look, not only for the community, but for the teachers also. It's going to change from one year to the next a little bit as we improve it and make some small changes as we go forward. So I think there's going to be a process where everyone just learns more about it. And with anything else, even myself, the educational system that we grew up in is very, very different than what it is right now and what we're trying to go to with this MCL system. So it's just a long process of getting past the idea that what we went through when we were younger is the only way it should be, because that's not the way it is. That's not reality. And so just the process of learning about this MCL system, what it's going to look like, how it's going to affect our students in a positive way, and just what's going to happen on a day-to-day basis. I think as we move forward and those questions are answered and we have more people, more students and more parents that move through the system, I think our support level will go up, no doubt about it. But at this point in time, it's still good. We have a great community here, a great group of parents that support what's going on in the school district, and they've been excellent so far. And that's one of the things that we've really found also is the communication level. The students that we had in here earlier mentioned the Thursday emails that the students send home to parents. Is one great thing that we've seen that has really helped that communication level. Just letting them know what's going on a daily basis. Our parent-teacher conferences allow us to get that information across also. So it's been a great support from the community, and I think that'll even increase as we go forward.
Very good. Anything else you'd like to say that I haven't addressed?
Did I miss anything, Principal Bass?
I got a couple. I think one of the unique things that you talked about wanting to make it unique for your district and how you implement it here. I'll go broad first and then we'll narrow down, but the whole idea of changing the schedule is really hard.
You might have to get those 8th graders in a different room in a couple minutes. Sorry, go ahead.
Right. Dealing with schedules is really hard because in secondary especially, everything's locked by the public. It's, how would you address that? Tell us a little bit more about how you're making the schedule more flexible.
The scheduling component is probably one of the most difficult things that we've looked at, along with not only the teaching staff, but our principal also. I mean, that's probably the most difficult thing that we've had to look at, because at a middle-sized school like we are, limited resources, limited staff, and probably the biggest thing is limited space. Compared to the bigger districts that we've seen. So we had to take all those things into consideration, and it's a step-by-step process, I think. The schedule that we have right now is going to look different next year. It'll look different the year after that as we kind of improve and figure out what works and what doesn't work. At this point in time, we dived in quite a ways with allowing our students a lot of freedom with their schedule. As a couple of our students said before, we lock them into certain components of the schedule, but they also have a significant chunk that they can pick and choose from. So it was a challenge determining how we were going to organize just the class periods and just the day, throughout the day, I guess you could say. That was a challenge right away, but I think what we found this year is allowing the students that freedom. They do a really good job of figuring out where they need to be at any given point in time and really take the responsibility for that. So that's been the least of our concerns on that, and in terms of determining a schedule.
It seems like with your scheduler, many schools, they flex maybe a week or, at a time. You actually flex daily. How does that work with the scheduler? What do the teachers do, and then how do the students interact?
We have an opportunity at the beginning of the day to sit down as a middle school staff and determine how we want the day to look. So we're able to form groups on a daily basis depending on a number of different factors. We're able to change the schedule on a daily basis. We're able to change the amount of time that a student may spend in a specific content area. on that day. So it allows us a lot of flexibility. And the greatest thing about that is the spot, I guess, or the status of a student may change from one day to the next depending on where they are in the unit. So that allows us to group and regroup depending on a number of factors. And so that flexibility on a daily basis is really nice to have. If it was any longer than that, I think, such as a week, for example, I think you could, by the end of the week, the relevance of the groups that you had determined before would be gone because the students have moved to different spots in the curriculum at that point in time. Now, if it's a longer project, I can see the importance there, but I think the day-to-day ability to change and mix and just put students where they need to be depending on where they are is important. And on the other side of it, I think the students really like that also because they get some variety. They're not constantly working with the same group of kids. It's groups based off of different criteria. And so they get a little variety. They get to work with different students they may not usually work with. And especially at the middle school level where the energy factor is a little bit higher, attention span may not be as high. Providing that variety, I think, is important for them on a daily basis.